Welcome in, friends. Welcome back into this fantastic lounge act. What's going on? It wasn't more than 15 minutes after I shut down my part 1 this morning. Then I got watching some creators, and I came across one that I kind of liked. I liked because she was questioning the narrative. And the other narrative too. And the other narrative to all of this. So I thought I would analyze this as a part of tonight's live stream because it brings her some attention. And this woman has fantastic points. She knows a lot more about specific players involved than I do. And most notably, she mentioned the Summer Wells crowd. And she has a particular point of view. So it shows you, she's not afraid to show you her bias in that sense. That's what got my ears up, because I'm like thinking, is she talking about me? I'm like, she can't be talking about me. She has to be talking about somebody else. And I think it was Dolly she was referencing, but it brought up a point that can go into a broader conversation in how the Summer Wells situation to some people has turned out. And certain people in that, or of that opinion, like to blame people who are out there and just talking about it with no harm in the world and speculating and about that. But I think she has a little bit more detailed of a disdain towards the individuals for some reason. I always like to look at that. So it's a bit of a side note. It's good to see you, Slim Hauser. Oh, Slim Pickens, I'm sorry. I got your old name in my head, for crying out loud. Lindy. Welcome in, my friends. Let me sort this out. So, really, she brought up a few good points, and it has to do with unverified information. Now, one, I guess the most important takeaway, well, there's two takeaways from this that are just as important. But the first one we're going to look at has to do with, these are in no particular order. You know the picture that's out there of Malaya at the beach? She's going to talk about that particular picture and the questionable origins surrounding that. And the other one is Daniel's picture with Meadow. In that sense, in that source. And then she hates all over Joseph Morris. She fucking goes after him. It's crazy. So you can search up on any search engine and search up Joseph Morris, the channel here on YouTube. He pops in and around everybody's live chat. Well, he has a history of allegedly making fake content. And from a creator's standpoint, I think you can understand why he does it. You remember, and many of here in this audience, people like Doug Hutton. I think he was called out by Ike Mel in that sense. And it had to do with some sort of content in relation to the Gabby Petito and even Brian Kohberger and the Idaho 4 situation. And a lot of these are made for the reason to hijack audience or get people to clickbait people into your content. And once you've been there once, you want to replicate that again and again. And the more that you do, like the longer that you go in this sphere of content creation, you try to simplify things. So it doesn't matter what the layman thinks on the other end of the television set. In that sense, you're making it an effect, and you're riding the information wave in that sense. But she has a specific opinion because, of course, this isn't just like content creation. This is covering real life people, and they're human beings at the end of the day. And you already walk a fine line with looking into people's lives to a point which probably none of us would wish. And there's a level of respect that should be, in a perfect world, adhered to. And we know as soon as there's humans involved, that goes right out the window. They'll find some way to trick, deceive, fuck you over, to kill you, and steal your shit. So it takes all kinds. But this particular woman's video stood out to me as not incorrect, and she brings up important points about the questionable sources in which these two photos came, which is recent information that's shaping, people's opinions in real time out there. Let me go see what Grok says here, my little buddy. So this photo of Malaya at the beach, this photo first shared by, she says, Joseph Morris. Okay? I don't know that to be true, but this is what she's bringing up, according to, we'll call it her research for the sake of the conversation today. I don't know that to be true. She could just have a real boner on for Joseph Morris, which is just as possible. It could be both. I don't know. It doesn't mean much. He fights that battle and plays that game for the people's attention that are involved in the situation. So I sit back. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want anything to do with it, because the next thing you know, it gets out of control really quick. You're always being gaslit, misled, and it's always the same types of people in these scenarios. It's better to sit back with your camera and your screen grab and just take snippets along the way and remember the tomfoolery and the bullshit and highlight that and talk about it. It's the same with all of these cases. But somehow in this conversation, it goes on, and she's including Summer Wells creators. And I'm like, because it's still so partial, you wouldn't know that from my page. But I'm like, I've got thousands of hours of content, and content that you just can't otherwise find, that covers the case from the very first day of Summer Wells on through every day for like 8 months and beyond, up till recent. I just put them on private in that sense because it's a different sort of thing. They only have a little bit of lifespan. Maybe I should edit them up and put them back up. I don't know. Not that there's any amazing information that's going to lead to her recovery or effort, but what it does is what we covered during those days with all the crap that was going on Facebook, because Dawn and Candace and everything was centered around Facebook and Twitter. These were the lines of information before the Times News Online came out with those Dawn Wells interviews in that period of time. And that no longer exists. They got those accounts yanked. Remember, even Dawn got his account, he got his account removed, his first account removed from Facebook because he was attacking Hunter, Andrew's son. And so anyway, why that's important to this is that she brings up, so she must be aware of, at least a lot of the nonsense involved in the Summer Wells case. But there's something she brought up, which I'll just leave to that point to bring up in the future tonight here, in the very near future, so I don't have to ramble on. Oh, it'll be interesting, Karen Jones. What's going on? So I don't want to make your mind up. I just thought, what if she's right? Like, and what does it mean to make misleading content in that sense? Part of her is, see, from my perspective, before we get into it, Dolly's come a long way. Dolly's come from a long way, and he goes out of his way to let you know that everything that he talks about is speculation and rumors, and it's not to be taken as 100% fact. In fact, please don't. That's a straight up disclaimer. He says that multiple times throughout each broadcast, So it's hard not to. From my perspective, be too hard on him for that. It's not like he's being purposefully deceiving or misleading, and that's, the basis behind her argument. So there's that. So let's begin.
So when I first started covering Jack and Lily's case, I did actually warn people about grifters and scammers who had jumped onto the case. I made sure to definitely highlight Joseph Morris due to his history on YouTube of scamming people, clickbaiting, and just basically creating fake content. The fake videos in the Gabby Petito case, which had people believing that Brian Laundrie was alive and had accidentally gone live on Instagram for a few seconds.
Fuck, you can't get anything past this woman, so it must be well known about in that sense. But it's nothing that isn't ordinary run-of-the-mill stuff that creators do. Not everybody. You can't endorse that sort of behavior, of course. But think about the shit that you've seen Benny Keys do, or Doug Hutton, or anybody else who's trying to get views on the YouTubes. It's not so far out there in that circumstance yet. But she's really holding a grudge. It's not like she's wrong, right? It's not like she's wrong. She's right. But come on. Whatever. Some people subscribe to a completely. There's nothing saying that you have to be telling the truth up in here. It's just the argument could be made in theory that, essentially this woman is doing just as much harm as anybody else is in that regards. Okay, because you're already involved in talking about the case to a degree. They're just choosing to talk about it in a different way. They can play stupid to a degree and pretend that they were misled. But she's going one step further and saying that they are the source of the disinformation and it's on purpose. Well, that would be clever. Yeah, the hypocrisy of Dougie going at Joseph Morris was wild. Listen, I want to make sure that you guys know that I'm not endorsing this situation. I've been where this woman is. A lot of my content was calling this sort of behavior out. So I'm already partial to what she's saying already. I'm just thinking, like, at some point I had to touch grass and come back to reality, because you start to fanaticize yourself naturally in the opposite direction and become just as bad. And just, or just as biased and contributing to the negativity of the entire situation, just from the polar opposite end. Hey, Lisa Lee, good to see you. Oh, yeah? Lucy with a Y. OMG, the lab has been streaming old videos of Doug. Like, oh, really? That's funny. What with him and Josh talking and hosting a show? Yeah, that's funny. Those would be funny to watch, actually. With his voiceover on it. That's good. I've been reading Carl Jung again. I don't think so. No, I haven't. It's just later in the day, Karen Jones. Oh my gosh. So hold on. We'll continue on here briefly.
Fake Poshmark listings in the Kylie Rodney case that had people believing that someone was selling Kylie's gold necklace and her sweater on Poshmark. And of course, the big kahuna, the fake audio in the Idaho 4 case, where he made it sound like you could actually hear the cries.
How could you say that wasn't just a mistake in editing, madam? It's just a coincidence, perhaps, that all of these really messed up edits he has on his Premiere Elements made it to the final cut, and that's what he put out. He didn't edit his content, but she's made a good point. Just very poor editing, perhaps. But that's his defense.
Of one of those beautiful young people as they were being ended by Brian Koberger.
Like, he released a video, all of a sudden it had Puff the Magic Dragon in it. Oh, whoops, it was like an overdub of something. Doesn't mean he was doing it maliciously. You got to have a plausible deniability in that scenario. But of course, if you're pushing it a certain way, it's a whole different story.
I well and truly warned people about Joseph Morris. I even pointed out in this case instances where things appeared to be scams and he appeared to be at the centre of it. Of course, I also mentioned the Summer Wells crowd, the handful of channels who persisted.
The Summer Wells crowd. I wonder who that is to her. In that sense, because at this point in time, it's got to be completely different than people who were covering it in the very beginning, and I'm part of that, absolutely, unfortunately. But there's so many more people who know it from watching the totality of it with everything since day one. I want to hear from those people. Let me know in the comment section below in the future when you're listening to this.
In covering Summer Wells' case and turning it into a circus, turning it into something akin to Days of Our Lives, turning it into something...
That's like what she's referencing. She's got to be talking about Jody Sue Brown. That's Jody Sue. 7, 8, 10, 12-hour broadcasts of her just sitting there. Think about all of the time Jody Sue has sat in that trailer talking into that phone, drinking that purple drink, that scissor. It was mesmerizing. She's up there hypnotizing people. Lucy with the Y, Ziggy. You're talking about Ziggy too? Yeah, I love Ziggy nonetheless. God bless her. I don't mind Ziggy at all. I've grown to love Ziggy in that sense. We've been through a lot. I don't mind. But she's got a right to talk about it because she married into this scenario. She married into the 110 Ben Hill crowd, y'all. You can too if you want. Ziggy would be in there. Yeah, she'd be in there. Prayer Garden would probably be considered. I'd consider her to be in the loop. She's gotten a lot better at hosting a show in that sense. That's good for her. But she still relies on a bit of... Well, she's got her own way, right? Prayer Garden. She's a sissy. She was so... I remember her from the very first day. She was so outspoken about really her love for Don Wells at that point in time. She was championing really his narrative. And it was just like gospel. You should worship that. Oh, that was funny. Many would say she had her heart broken in that circumstance.
Akin to Days of Our Lives, where they introduce all these additional characters who supposedly have connections to the case and who have all these fantastical stories to share.
Do you know what? I mean, I get what this gal is saying, but I don't think that was so in this particular case. Yeah, maybe she's right up to a point, because when everybody starts talking about all of these extra characters at any one point in time at the time, like Fred Light, Frank Light, or whatever his name, all of these dudes, I tuned out. I tuned out. I knew everybody. You know everybody that was there and around it if you were watching it since day one. But I think she's probably right in that. So that wasn't us. There came a time with the Summer Wells case that you just didn't want to talk about it because of how crazy it is, due to the fact that Don and Candace, it took a big turn because all of these weirdos started competing over Don and Candace's attention in that sense. And of course, you don't really want that attention. What is that Daisy, the woman that talks about pee in her pants? What do you say, Natasha Taps? She's a trailer park trash buzzed on I don't know what, but she's not sober. If you want my opinion, and people paying her sitting there and rambling, smoking cigarettes. You talking about Jody Sue Brown, girlfriend? I've so far in this case, I'm not even upset at Jody Sue anymore. When I was attached to the case at the time, I was so upset. Yeah, Natasha. I was so taken by it. I couldn't help but feel some sort of way towards Jody Sue, but I could have a normal conversation with her now about things. No problem. She has lied in this circumstance more times, but it's people, I think it's people overreacting to a lot. You remember the times that she used to get, do these live streams and pretend that the stalker was driving up and down her road, and, she was making it look like she was paranoid. Oh my God. Jody Sue up there blaming everything on Andy. And you can't forget, there's no going back on it. This Jody Sue misrepresented Dawn and Candace initially when she first introduced herself to everybody. The weird part is, it was so crazy when Molly and crew went down there. Yeah, heels on the ground. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, Molly, that's funny. So speaking of that crew, Betty is talking about this particular case, the Jack and Lily situation. You know what, Natasha? They all know. I'm pretty sure. They have their suspicions, and it's probably accurate. They know how devious Don and Candace are. They're certainly not telling the truth about the situation. So it's very difficult then to follow up on that without any evidence. And when I say they have no evidence, they probably got nothing. Which is too bad.
That actually make it clear that, this is what might have happened to Summer Wells. Funnily enough, that's what's happening here. And who have all these fantastical stories to share that actually make it clear that, this is what might have happened to Summer Wells. Funnily enough, that's what's happening here. All of a sudden, we have these characters coming out of the woodwork who are somehow supposedly connected to the case with their stories that really don't hold up to scrutiny. And then you have messages that apparently occurred between people that are apparently real because they're published on Facebook, so they must be real. You even have one of those creators having created his very own Jack and Lily page so that he can control the narrative there. And guess who is commenting on his Jack and Lily page? None other than Daniel Martel. Allegedly.
Hello, Vivian.
My point is here that there is a lot of scamming going on with this case. People seem to have forgotten.
There is a lot of scamming going on in any situation like this. Running late from central New South Wales, Australia, Miss Matt Murphy. Sounds like you're closer to this creator than we are. But welcome in. Yeah, that's true, Cats. You've been around forever. That's a good thing. It changed direction around the time, says Lisa Lee, her now husband started calling her collect. That's when I remember. Who are you talking about, Lisa?
Gotten the actual facts that they've been told. And I've mentioned this in a previous video. The whole purpose of these short videos that I'm doing are to remind people of the facts and also to correct misinformation.
So, by the way, I will be sharing the link to this particular video in the comments section after I post it. It's not there right now, but it is when you look right now for those of you watching in the future.
We've been told by the Mounties that unless the information comes from them, then probably we shouldn't be paying attention to that information. I'm going to add to that and say that when someone like Joseph Morris or Dolly Vision is all over something, then you should probably question the credibility of what it is they are pushing onto you.
Okay, fair enough. That's a fair enough point that she made. I love it. It's a good point, but Dolly's come a long way. You should consider anything at any one point in time. Dolly does a pretty good job setting up the information. He's just facilitating and entertaining it. That's what the great thing about having a phone number to call into sometimes. Now, you could say the same thing about crimes, lies, or it's a crime and shame in that circumstance. But, you know, she treats it with respect, and she's skeptical about everything she brings, and she does a good job letting the audience know that. I think that she couldn't do any better at that than she is. A lot of people don't believe anything that they hear. That's right. DJ, it's good to see you. But she's reiterating a perfect point.
In this video, I'm specifically going to address two different photos. One is the photo that is supposed to be Malaya at the beach.
So, hold on. Wrong one. Where am I going here? Just a second, please. I got my buttons all mixed up. There we go. So, the details of the photo of Malaya at the beach. She claims that it was first shared by Joseph Morris. Now, I don't know that to be true, but she feels that she does. So we'll give her the benefit of the doubt for now. Allegedly shows Malaya Brooks Murray at the beach, posted on Snapchat with a caption by somebody named Jill Moore stating, "Nothing towards my cousin, but could you imagine your kids missing, and instead of helping and doing everything in your power to find them, you're on the beach happy as a clam?" The speaker argues the photo is not recent but a digital image of the printed photo, showing signs of deterioration, for example, white bits and poor quality. Malaya and her friend Cheryl appear younger, around 19 or 20, she argues, in this photo, compared to their current age, approximately 26 at this point in time, with differences in face shape, skin tone, and weight suggesting it's from years ago, like before she had all those kids. Before she started popping out all those babies that she can't find now and she can't wait to get rid of. So this particular speaker is suggesting the photo was a hoax, likely not posted by Cheryl, who is confirmed as Malaya's friend. They speculate it was obtained by somebody with access to Malaya's old photos, possibly Daniel, to discredit her by implying she's carefree during her children's disappearance. This photo's poor quality and lack of verifiable origin, aside from tracking it back to Joseph Morris, undermines its credibility. The speaker notes Cheryl's defense of Malaya on another channel, suggesting someone may have exploited her identity to create a fake post. Now, this introduces new skepticism about the photo's authenticity, challenging the narrative that Malaya is indifferent. It suggests a deliberate attempt to manipulate public perception, potentially by Daniel or Morris, and highlights the need to verify sources.
Just recently. And the other is the photo which supposedly proves that Daniel got to see Meadow. I'm going to tell you now, you've been, if you believe those photos, you've been deceived. So let's jump in and take a look, shall we?
I love it. I love it. She's got some fire in her belly, this one. That's a big drop. You've been deceived. You've been lied to. That's a bold statement. And she's going to show us exactly how. You show us right now.
Start with this photo of Malaya at the beach. Now, I bet you can't guess where this originates from.
Jack and Lily's mother, Malaya Brooks Murray, was caught on Snapchat at the beach. Jill Moore wrote, quote, "Nothing towards my cousin, but could you imagine your kids missing and instead of helping and doing everything in your power to find them, you're on the beach happy as a clam?"
Yes, of course, it comes from Joseph Morris. Now, it's possible that it may not have originated with Joseph Morris. But of course, we can't verify the origins of this because Joseph Morris never cites his sources. He's very careful to not do so that people can't...
It takes up too much time in the shorts. She's got a good eye. It's all about timing. Something tells me Joseph Morris loves to short the market too.
Can't prove him wrong, so that people can't check for themselves that something is real and not yet another Joseph Morris fabrication. Of course, we also can't rule out the possibility that someone connected with Daniel has put this post out, because to me it looks like the image is a digital photo of a physical photo, and I'll show you what I mean shortly. So who might have access to photos belonging to Malaya of her and her friends? Give you one guess. Daniel.
It's probably her profile picture on the dating app on Tinder that they hooked up on. That's her Tinder photo. You know what I'm saying? It's probably the one Daniel fell asleep to all of those nights preceding the move. I wonder what happened. I wonder what really happened here. Why the need to lie constantly? It's got to be pretty bad, you would think. It's got to be the worst case scenario.
Martel. So it seems that both possible sources of this photo, when you look at them, neither one is overly credible. Once again, I've not found any evidence of it existing up until the time it was put out there by Joseph Morris. However, it's got to come from somewhere. I'd like to know where it originally came from, because I strongly suspect that it...
Yeah, man, that's usually the first thing that you do in order. First thing that you do is cite the information and then talk about it, you would think, if you're doing it in a genuine situation. Joseph Morris is wise enough to know the difference. But, you know, she's got a point. She got a point.
It was not put out there by Malaya's friend Cheryl. Once again, this makes me question who might know the name of this woman, because I've verified that is actually her identity, and who might have access to these photos. Now, when you look at Joseph Morris's video, there are comments to accompany.
And, you know, just look at that. Yeah, 2 children missing. The fact that Daniel is borderline taunting Malaya publicly through these statements at this point in time. Like, how appropriate do you think that is? Is he completely lacking that self-awareness? Or are they actually real? You know, pulling all of these screenshots from Facebook and areas leaves a lot of gray area technically, but it shows you really that he's trying to make it look like, you know, Darren Getty claims are actually legit at this point in time. Like a play within a play. You guys didn't fall for the first one? Well, here's the second one. You can believe me this time.
Accompanying it, which are supposed to verify that it is all legitimate. That actually, yes, Malaya was at the beach with her friend, and this was the response her friend gave, basically saying, well, she's entitled to a bit of relaxation time because of all the stress she's under. But those comments, I've not seen them anywhere other than Joseph Morris. They have, of course, since been shared on Facebook and been shared by other YouTube creators. But when you look back, you find the origins straight back to Joseph Morris. So who posted them on Facebook first?
Who posted them to Facebook first? What is this? Let's see.
Normally, I would block out the name of the person responsible for posting. But like I said, given that the origins of this seem to trace directly back to Joseph Morris, I'm going to show the name of the person who posted it subsequently on Facebook. Seems kind of clear that this person is enjoying being part of the drama.
Miss Julia Zwicker.
Sharing the screenshots of, well, the apparent screenshots of this conversation. So I have been able to confirm that this Cheryl person actually is a friend of Malaya's. And if she did post this photo, then she's a pretty scummy friend. But since we can't actually go back to the original post by this Cheryl, then my question is, was it her or was it someone who has got hold of this photo and shared it and made up the accompanying text? So I'm going to start by bringing up a larger, closer version of this photo. And I just want to remind you yet again that the first person sharing this was Joseph Morris. Although there also now appears to be a clean version of the image circulating, which is not a screenshot from Joseph Morris's video, meaning that someone has shared the original. Was it Joseph Morris sharing it? Or was it someone who had the original photo and shared it with Joseph Morris, who then subsequently put it out there in social media? Either way, to me that says that seriously diminishes the credibility of this photo even before you start to look at it. Okay, so let's start by addressing the picture quality. This is not
Oh, excuse me. Muted. I was testing that button again. Thank you, Jen JJ. That's working. But there you can see in this particular photo that there's the reflection shows two people and a phone for a selfie. So she's taking a selfie and there's two other people there watching her. Selfie, of course it's a selfie on the beach. Girl, let's see. Malaya's there with her Jackie Onassis glasses. The argument is that she's saying that these kids are barely 19, barely 18. Yes, she is looking awfully young. Difficult to tell, but this photo is just disturbing. The hair color is disturbing. The glasses are disturbing. Yeah, she looks way younger. And there's people them as well with them, so it could very well be an older photo. It looks like a photo of a photo for sure. It's not an original sharp original print for having it, 2025 technology on your phone. It's a picture of a picture. That's what it looks like. It's not just the outdated hairstyle. Some would argue.
Not a digital photo. This is a digital photo of a printed photo. You can see all the imperfections in the paper. The imperfections that usually occur when someone's had a photo sitting somewhere on display over a number of years.
Or a screen. They're sharing that in like 480p.
This photo's probably been sitting on a pinboard somewhere for the past 10 years.
On a
It's got all
dartboard.
those white bits on it that you usually see from a photo that's been sitting out and has begun to deteriorate. But honestly, you just have to look at the quality of the image to see that it's not a digital photo.
It's got loads of filters on it, you're saying there, Karen Jones? It must have that smoothing filter on it to take away the wrinkles, I would expect. Look like a couple of clowns. Couple of silly clowns. The hair color is strange. I seen Stacy Wander date a chick with the color hair that way. What? Get the hell out of here. When is Stacy Wander? Oh, are you saying Stacy Wander's significant other has that colored hair? Or is it a different girl you're speaking of? How do you know it was a girl?
Look at the
Tell me
water
100
behind
three
them.
times?
Look at the land behind them. Just look at the colouring and the texture of the photo.
Yeah, it looks a little bit shit. But I'm looking at it through filters as well.
So if it
Hard to
actually
tell.
was posted by this Cheryl onto Snapchat on the 27th of June, then it's been posted as a digital photo that's been taken of a physical photo. Which would mean that this Cheryl did it intentionally to discredit Malaya. In which case, I hope Malaya never speaks to her again.
Well, she's probably taking advice from her. What are you talking about?
If that is indeed the case. And of course, I
Personal
hope that
assistant.
someone makes Malaya aware
Or
of the
handler.
fact that she can take
What are you claiming? This is Malaya's handler?
legal actions. She can sue this individual for putting this image out, should she so wish. However, if this is something that someone has gotten hold of and subsequently used it to create a fake post, then I apologise to this woman that she's been taken advantage of in such a horrible way.
Yeah, in my opinion, she's got a point with her looking way younger. For sure. You could sell it to me that this wasn't at all a recent photo.
Now, like I said, I know she's a friend of Malaya's. I've looked at her Facebook account. I've also done a bit of digging, found the connections, and I also heard her on some little channel, I can't even remember the name of it, where she went on some...
Maybe this is one of the tactics that old Daniel was talking about. Somebody went and overdubbed that as a recent June 27th, 2025, just to kind of try to either con people into believing it's an actual post. But really, she's saying this is the type of shit that Joseph Morris plays, and be careful of it. And can't you see, like, an I Told You So coming up, a follow-up video to this?
Time back and spoke on that channel.
Joseph Morris, how dare you? He's like the coyote, Wile E. Coyote of content.
Trying to stand up for Malaya. It appears that maybe someone discovered her identity through listening to that channel and went hunting and found this image. Now, like I said, at this point in time, the origins of this photo seem to be Joseph Morris. Although
See, these are the things that you say that make me think that you're related, Karen Jones. So Cheryl is the sister of the young woman who is living with Malaya's half-brother Hayden Smith Murray, isn't he? I don't know. I don't know. Is he? Oh, yes. What? How the hell am I supposed to verify something like that, girl? It sounds like you know a lot about who is who. Man, Karen Jones, who are you? You're like Batwoman. How do you know this? How do you know all of this information that continues to blow my mind on the daily? Most of it, not all of it. But there's these points, like, how do you know that? Are you sitting in some sort of office somewhere with a big pin board?
Remains, where did he find it in the first place? Was it given to him, or did he find it himself? So I'm going to address Malaya first, and straight up you can see that in the photo on the left, she's actually quite a bit younger. At a guess, I'd say she's probably about 19.
Let's look at the side-by-side. Love the side-by-side. Fantastic work. The title of this video you're watching is called Proof, P-R-O-O-F, that you're being lied to. Her eyebrows are different. First thing. That's the first thing I look at in a woman. I just love a woman with beautiful eyebrows. And in this one, the woman on the left's eyebrows are a lot more full out towards her temples than they are on the one in the right. That doesn't mean you can't draw them in like Smiley Stories World does. Now, as well, she's retaining a lot more water in her cheeks. She's heavier in the one on the right. I can't see her ears. You never know that you could be looking at a filter as well.
And if you can't actually see that difference there, I'm not sure that I can help you on this video.
Yo, sweet tea.
But let's move on from the apparent age difference and have a closer look. The easiest way to see what I'm talking about here is to examine the chin line. In the photo on the left-hand side, Malaya is significantly lighter than what she is in the photo on the right-hand side. Let's forget the fact that in this photo on the left-hand side, she looks like she's maybe 19 or 20. Whereas the photo on the right-hand side, she looks like she has that adult spread that occurs with females when you get into your mid-20s. Because Malaya would now be around 26. And it shows. Look at the chin line. Nobody loses that much weight in a period of about 8 weeks. And if they do, they're not going to suddenly lose.
The only way that you do is if you're on that methamphetamine diet with your buddy Daniel, your partner.
Lose all their little wrinkles. And they're not going to have this sudden glowing appearance to their skin. They're certainly not going to be showing that appearance of healthy radiance that we see in the photo on the left-hand side. And of course, based on the narrative that's been put out there, from all accounts, Malaya has been inside for the last 8 weeks, hiding out. And honestly, to get that level of suntan in an 8-week period of time with skin like Malaya's, not a...
See, I argue quite the opposite, because being of native heritage myself, I could be out in the sun for like 20 minutes and be like a completely another shade of dark in that sense. And she'd probably be much of the same, I would expect. You know, there's certain genes that tan a lot quicker than others, let's say, and I think that she's one of them. Sounds like she's coming from but I don't want to get too picky. She made her point. She didn't have to go farther than that. The age difference is everything. Chin line, I don't sell it because you're looking at it from different perspectives through a camera. One's a selfie from like an Instagram, and the other one is not her photo, but a depiction of her that comes through the lens of social or of corporate media and their cameras. But you made a point with the age difference. So, mofos.
Chance. She has that classic pale Irish skin tone that tends to burn in the sun before it even begins to...
So you're saying she's more Irish than she is Aboriginal? That's what we're arguing about. That's where our difference is. I'm saying she's more Aboriginal, more native. You're saying she's more Irish. But I mean, she got a point. Like in that case, you got a point. Did you see, by the way, that they celebrated Redhead Day in Ireland? There's a great picture. There's a lot of good-looking redheads out there. A lot of ugly redheads too. Satan's lot. Oh, Karen Jones. She says, I hate those, and I don't do race jokes very well. That's funny. But, oh my God. Hairline is different, you're saying, Slim? Karen Jones, she's Scotch and French, is she? Oh, yeah. Good for her. She's Métis. She's got I wonder if she has any status or just her kids.
To start looking like it has a hint of a tan. To get a tan like that, she would have needed to have spent the entire summer out in the sunshine. Now it's possible that on the left-hand side she's got a spray tan.
We know people like that too.
But then, given that she's supposed to be hiding out, do you really see her wandering off to some business somewhere to get a spray tan? Highly unlikely. No matter how you look at it, there is no way that this photo on the left-hand side is a recent photo of Malaya. Now, in case you're still unsure, let's take a look.
Man, she makes a strong argument. How many of you guys in my chat think that it's not a recent photo of Malaya? Let me know. Hit one. Give me a one. I think she's probably right. She's probably right. Like, there's no way we can obviously verify that, but she's probably right. Yeah, Lindy, Mary, Karen, you say she's making a valid point in this circumstance? Absolutely. All right. It's definitely not recent, JJ. Right on. Sounds about right. I knew you guys would like this. This woman's speaking truth.
Look at her friend Cheryl. Again, she's considerably younger in the photo on the left hand.
Oh my God. Oh my God. And that's the second. We'll get to that in a few minutes. We're going to the second part of this in a second with Daniels and Meadows' photo. Remember the other day how odd we thought, like, it's just so bizarre to all of a sudden go posing with your child all over social media, like a picture to prove that you are reunited with Meadow. I mean, that's really weird. I've never seen that before. The other person that I saw do that as a way to deflect something or drive home a point. There's probably multifaceted reasoning behind it, but it was Don Wells and with Josie.
And side, just for starters, skin tone, so much paler on the right hand side. And yes, this is a recent photo of her.
You're saying it doesn't even look like the same lady? Yeah, you can see the same lips there. Same lips. It's just those. It's just the hair. It's the hair that really is a turnoff. Sorry, darling. It's so judgmental. There's nothing wrong. She's a fine-looking lady, but I mean, it's the same person. That's the same person. Don't be fooled. It's just you arguing that slim, I hope.
That was taken in either April or May, and I've forgotten already. Notice again the change of face shape. The sort of change that occurs when someone moves from their late teens, early 20s into their mid-20s. She's now got that more adult shape to her face as opposed to the teenage look. I'm guessing she's probably in her mid-20s, like Malaya. I don't think I really need to talk about this photo much more, because if you can't see it by now, then I can't help you. But it seems pretty clear to me.
Yeah, she won me over. She won me over with this photo. She won me over. Her argument won me over, regardless of the face shape in her argument. She doesn't have to keep going on about it.
That this photo is nothing but a hoax, designed to stir up more hatred.
Yeah, so the question is, who is the disinformer? Who is the son of a bitch who started talking all about this, Daniel, you bastard? What is he doing, stoking the fires in the background? It's very bizarre behavior. Is he tweaking? Haley wants us to think so. Dude be tweaking hard all over the place, bouncing all over the walls. I don't know how you can say the reflection in the glasses look more like Malaya. How are you? I can't tell who is in the reflection of the glasses. How are you going to be a reflection in your own glasses if it's not a composite or something? Sweet Tea, you're saying he's spiteful and loves her? You think so? And he's signaling it over the airwaves? Crying in bed at night? Is he crying himself to sleep, do you think? Yeah, Steve Austin. The bionic eyes. Natasha Taps. I get you. Slim's got bionic eyes. Usually Slim's pretty good with these things. Seemingly they have no heart, Lacadian. I'm very surprised. Haley, I believe, was disapproved by the Rugs today. Was disproved, you're saying. Disproved or disapproved. What is disapproved? Except Lone Talk. We were not approved. So she was disproven? Like they invalidated her suspicions? Who's to really say that? She keeps coming up and trying to put that on him. It tells me that she knows because she probably was partying with them. You know? And all of a sudden she's turning coat and trying to rat him out for her 15 minutes of fame in this circumstance, which I believe Daniel has kind of said, but who's to really say? You can put a filter on your face, my wife says, but maybe an older picture too. Yeah, David? I think so.
Or Malaya. Or to bring in more views for someone's channel. Now, as mentioned, the other photo I want to discuss is the photo of Daniel with what appears to be...
This is good. This woman is good.
Meadow. And I refuse to put photos of Meadow here.
So she's got Meadow blanked out. This is Daniel. It looks like a photo of Daniel at the hospital with a newborn or something. But she's comparing it to recent photos of Daniel and his hair length, I bet. I don't know what's up with Daniel's hairdo. How did it feel, Daniel, when you passed the polygraph test? Good. It felt good. Oh my God, bro. Big North Marty says the weird thing that the girl in the photo was on a channel very recently, forgot the name, and I wonder why she didn't call out that they weren't on the beach, that the photo was old, etc. Strange. So you're saying the weird thing is that the girl in the photo, like Malaya's friend, was on another channel very recently. You don't know the name. Maybe Dolly or somebody? And you wonder why she didn't call that out then as being like an older photo. Probably because she's doing it on request by somebody in the background trying to build a narrative. My answer to that would be my suspicion, my hypothesis. In Sky Maiden's opinion, that photo of Daniel and the baby was fake from the jump. You're seeing it? Yeah, it seems like a bizarre thing to go around and posting for everybody, you know, especially by Daniel. Like, why would that get out in the first place? Maybe he wants all of this out because he's tweaking, maybe Haley wants us to believe. Karen Jones said she reneged on the drug statement. She said, no, I didn't say that. Okay, Karen. I'll correct that then. Excuse me. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. I apologize. And I just talked about it a second ago. See how easy it happens? You think Daniel was dealing rugs out of that trailer and the kids got into it? High probability of that happening in this circumstance, absolutely. The risk factor of that scenario is probably up there at 90%. Had to put it properly in there because it's getting up there. You have to have a starting point, I guess. In your opinion, she lied about having or hearing rustling in the bathroom and there being rug residue. So, BC Proud, you're saying that she lied. She straight up came out and admitted that she came out, talked about it, then immediately that's like that's clickbaiting everybody and then reneging on your claims. It's like coming back on the title of your video that you were planning on coming live about. So yeah, she lied about it. She wants some attention. She wants your attention. Fuck that bitch. Fuck you, Haley, you scumbag. What the heck is rustling in the bathroom? Could be wiping your arse, like on really shitty toilet paper, like those recycled pieces that you get at cheap ones in some sort of like backwoods camp. That's rustling. Like newspaper on your ass. Very uncomfortable. Maybe he was putting baby powder on David. Yeah, exactly. What's it her business? That's why there's a lock on the door, you nosy bitch. Like, what the fuck's her problem? Like, I wonder what made her suspicious in the first place. But does it matter if immediately afterwards she tells you that she's lying? What? That's like with everybody in this scenario that they introduce. Everybody has their own little lie. Oh, that's just how I introduce myself. Barbara M., devil's advocate Haley could have been threatened unless she retracted her statement about the rugs. I guess that's an argument that way. Just another one to confuse you back and forth. But they keep bringing it up nonetheless. I mean, is it an issue? I don't know. This could be another thing to hold against them. But why is Daniel... Oh, no, it's a lie. I'm not even going to further it.
Yeah, on this video because she's only a baby. She's got nothing to do with this case. Her face should not be all over social media. That said, if you're curious, you can always find it on Daniel's profile page and, of course, some of the Facebook pages for Jack and Lily, because some of those Facebook pages seem to not care about posting an image of a child who's not even 2 years old. Now, Daniel mentioned in a recent interview that he had a visitation lined up, a supervised visitation with Meadow. So it is quite possible that that is where this photo comes from. and that he's gone and tidied himself up a bit, got a haircut to create a good impression with protective services. Of course, it's also just as possible that this photo was taken prior to Jack and Lilly going missing. And I think when it comes to these sort of things, we do have to have that critical outlook, that logical outlook. Make sure that we're not just being hoodwinked and believing straight out what we're being told or what we're being shown. Now, my nieces and nephews are grown up. It's been a while since I've been around a toddler. But to me, in this photo, and like I said, I'm not going to show it here, so if you're curious, then you will need to go hunting on Facebook, or it's probably on multiple other channels. But honestly, in this photo, it looks like she could only be 12, 13 months old at the most. I have to say though, regardless of whether this is a recent photo of Daniel...
I'm going to have to admit something to you. As wonderful as a parent as I am, I'm not even sure anymore if I can pick out the difference between a 12-month-old and a 15 or 16 or an 18-month-old. I kind of classify them all in as the same age at that point in time. Just for my own brain, it's like... But I'm sure, believe me, people can distinguish, no doubt. Just not me.
You with Meadow? A photo taken when he had visitation?
I would
Or whether
think
it
that you
is a
probably
photo.
could keep track just simply by a child's weight. It should be somewhere around this for a bit of a milestone in your mind. That's how I probably tell the difference. Through the milestones, right? Not necessarily by physical appearance. Because they all look like cute babies. They all smell like little babies.
Taken before the children went missing. It is still an attempt to manipulate an audience. This is all about the image. He's not concerned about his daughter's face being shown all over the internet. What we're supposed to take away from this is that, A, Daniel is a pretty nice, loving father kind of guy. Look at him. He's holding his daughter. And that's his profile picture.
He's holding his daughter like he's never held a baby before in his life, to be honest with you. It looks almost like... It looks fake. You tweaking there, son?
And of course we're also supposed to take away from this that he did have that visitation that he was talking about. But by posting this image as his profile picture, this is no different from a politician kissing babies.
No different. What the fuck's he doing? He posted that as his picture. That's so weird. I guess. I mean, your Facebook profile picture. It just seems so pretentious.
This is PR. Don't be fooled, people. I'm sure he does love his daughter. But this image is nothing but PR. This is designed to manipulate people. This is another attempt at showing people he's the hero because he cares.
Darren has been doing damage control for these two for the last 3-4 weeks now. Wouldn't you consider that damage control to their reputation, considering that the only solution to the answer, the complex answer at this point in time, is why did Malaya instinctively call the RCMP on herself and try to convince them that the kids walked into the woods? Because we should be expecting the worst case scenario here, and they've just hidden the bodies. Anything else would just be irrational, considering the amount of bullshit. And they're out here already anticipating ahead of the game. Yo, Miss K.
Cares about his kids. Ironically, it all...
Yeah, if you want a photo with your child, you want to be looking at your child. You don't want to be looking and smiling at the person who's trying to get you to smile. You want to be... You got your baby in your arms. Yeah, it is a PR move. It's a bizarre pose. It's not a very good photo. You shouldn't be proud of that photo. I'll trust this Daniel. Mary, that's a red flag. He doesn't have real pictures of him and the baby. His profile picture is rigged. It's a red flag, but it just could be because he's awkward in front of photos. He's definitely not photogenic in that sense. Although he does take pretty good photos, I've noticed. He's got some poses out there in the media. That's very generous of you, Jenner. Thank you very much for the gifted memberships. He does have some good poses in front of, like, as long as the expensive equipment is out with the CBC and CTV. She's making her point. She's got a point, especially with these recent developments, we'll call them, with air quotes, developments.
Also, regardless of which way you look at it, basically debunks the other stories that have been put out there. The story about Malaya doing a runner with Meadow and they don't know where she is. And the story that Delwood put out.
If you keep that narrative out there long enough, people will start believing it. And that's probably their hopes. I wanted to believe that narrative. I don't know about you guys. Maybe you did as well. Many of us out there want to hope for the best in the circumstance and believe this Derwood O'Grady, this imposter, when he says that it's 1,000% and it's ironclad and these kids are with her people and some other reserve. How is it you can be so close and be in control of the narrative, like owning the narrative in that circumstance, and then just let everybody down and pretend that you know the answer to that question based off of all of these particular sources that you have that you're not going to share with the RCMP out of pure spite, admittedly. Like you're admitting to a crime there. Either you're full of shit, mofo, or you're just incriminated yourself in a federal crime. And you're admitting to it. Like, how smart is this guy? It makes no sense. Therefore, it's got to be a lie. If you were to apply Judge Judy to rationale to this situation. And I happen to kind of agree. No matter how badly we want to believe this Darren Geddes, because he spends so much time blowing smoke up our ass and dazzling us with or blinding us with his bullshit. I appreciate you, JJ. But there's no possible way that we can believe anything that he says. Because if you think about it, even though we are lacking information, it's nothing but a PR campaign because he wants everybody to be and understand the human aspect to Daniel and Malaya and all of this. More importantly, he wants to fool you into thinking that he's got some sort of emotional attachment to this scenario other than being a part of it as a suspect himself. It sounds like when you listen to this guy, it sounds like somebody in an interrogation room, like a third party, letting you into a scenario that Danielle and Malaya don't want to talk about. We can see in the writings on the wall that these kids just didn't walk into the bush on their own and disappear into nothingness like they really want to impress home. That, number one, that doesn't happen with kids. If they actually did do that, they would have been found by now. Unless there's some extreme situation like they fell and went to a cave or something like that. But that's not at a risk in this scenario. It's been well searched. Something would have popped up in that regards. Therefore, you two assholes, what's going on? And they spend most of the time developing all of this disinformation and propping it up on social media to satisfy the masses. Does that seem like a person who doesn't have anything to worry about to you? No. It's constant damage control with Daniel. That's what it does seem like. And people are coming in, engaging in that, knowing that he's not doing anything about it. There's legitimately a market here for bullshit, and people can get away with it, which is like a license to print money for certain YouTube channels and getting that. So just a little bit of misinformation for a person like Joseph Morris can mean $1,000 in an hour in that circumstance at the right times. It's like being in the market at the right time and being able to put out any sort of content that people will excuse, and knowing that preemptively. So the next time that we're in a situation with a missing child like this, he knows exactly what to title it, and he'll work with anything accordingly. Money will always motivate certain people to do things that way. And that's what you really have to be careful of. And when you're here on YouTube, that applies 100-fold, especially with large channels and, the ability to get into the algorithm. But it doesn't take away from the question at hand. No matter how and which way that you look at it, it's just trying to put a positive spin on child murder. And you can murder a child through neglect, unfortunately. And that is, all the signs are right here for it. And they're too busy pointing, they're narcissists arguing. They're pointing their fingers back and forth at each other to a degree. We don't hear anything from Malaya, of course, just secondhand information through unverified contacts and people that have edged their way into certain channels, like Darren Geddes. I want to believe this Dermot O'Grady. It took me a while to come through that, but I can't believe anything that the guy says. You can't believe anything, unfortunately. And especially this account of Janie and watching Lilly walk those kids out to the road and put them in a car. That's not something that comes out after the fact. That's something that comes out that particular day. I can't get past that. Meaning that it would have directed this investigation in a completely different way at this point, in my opinion. Karen Jones, they won't have trial by jury. The public has found them guilty. It will have to be trial by judge. Oh, right. In this circumstance, Karen? Yeah, it's far beyond that at this point. We're hard on Haley at this point in hearing her allegedly lie but still come forward with this story. Don't totally discount anything anybody close to the case has to say necessarily. Just take everything you hear into consideration, but don't let it form your opinion to the point that you're believing anything that's being said. These are two individuals that have every reason to lie in this moment, especially if they're trying to get away with what we're suspicious of, right? Hey, Kathleen McClure. You expect these two not to be completely forthcoming. It would account for the fact why he's so happy about passing this polygraph examination. The whole conversation regarding that is bizarre. It takes away from the reality at hand, as the parents don't have a good enough alibi, a good enough story. They haven't came out with a really good story about what happened that day. Not once. It's unacceptable. It's just as unacceptable if it came from Malaya or if it came from Daniel. The fact that it doesn't exist out there and people have kind of become accustomed to that and put that aside, putting pieces together since day one, because they really haven't told you anything. They haven't told you anything because of how inarticulate Malaya was in front of the camera. Number one, you can't figure out what exactly she means because she's talking in circles. All of a sudden, Daniel's her partner, and it's more important that they talk about their particular conflict. That's overshadowing the fact that they lied about Jack and Lilly. And don't you think that the fact that there's absolutely no sign, Daniel, should be a prime indicator that you don't have to continue to search miles and miles around? Logic would tell you, if it was a genuine situation, that these kids have either gotten themselves in something. You got to call in the heavies. At what point did you guys agree to call in the RCMP, the heavies? That what was the determining factor? All of a sudden, you went from panic mode to her instinctively calling them. That's a distancing statement. That's where it begins. And you want people to buy this bullshit narrative. I don't buy it one bit. The most key important parts of this story are overlooked, like it's some sort of B-rated movie. People have to know about certain things in order to buy this bullshit, and you are skipping over them as though you're lying it. And you have to be lying in this circumstance. Otherwise, there would be easy, clear answers. Okay? Karen Jones, you say they think it's a good story. It took them a day to come up with it. It's the worst story out there. It's bullshit. It's nonsense. Not just that, Daniel has said it's nonsense out there to add confusion to all of this. It's like a story that you can later blow up when you need to along the way with key information like they do. Don't you think all of this should be like headline news in this circumstance? A little part of your mind thinks. Like, I mean, these are pretty key details. How does it feel to be in front of the media admitting that you lied to everybody all along the way, Daniel? Oh, it's easy because I can pretend that I didn't know about it. I was being set up. I can't buy that 100%. You have to have known what was going on. My concern is primarily like the first 6 hours after you called them in missing. After, they were probably all said and done. In reality, all of this could have been done far beyond, or like before the hour of 6 a.m. You could have done it throughout the night. Who knows what they've got on trail cam and all of their video. I wonder if there's any evidence they pulled from that. Of course, they're not going to share that with us yet. Yeah, and Darren is claiming to be part of Malaya's family at the end of the day. And she has verified, or at least acknowledged the individual. So we think. So we're made to believe, if you're to believe the messages that were given to us through It's a Criming Shame. And I do at this point in time. But it's not going to surprise me if they turn out to be bunk, or some of them turn out to be bunk. Just be careful. Does anyone know why they were in town the day before they went missing? I don't know, BC. I haven't heard in that sense. He hasn't really said because, of course, old Daniel doesn't want to interfere in the investigation. He doesn't want to jeopardize any of the information, as he tells us all kinds of other things anyway. What that tells me is that he doesn't want to give up any more of the information that he has that the cops want. Like, why is it that it's a big secret when it's in public interest that these children are found? In my opinion, there's no such thing. You need to out with this shit. It's a lot easier for the police to work with facts of the case in that circumstance. And by being open and transparent, that automatically makes things a fact. He doesn't want to share because they contradict with his own narrative or make him look worse in this scenario that he's so happy that he's gotten this far getting away with. And that's conspiring to cover up the death of two of these children. Two children just don't go missing, poof, into thin air. And nobody hears anything about it again. That's not an everyday occurrence. Not from a situation like this that, that's just so nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I don't believe it. I refuse to believe it. And this is the story that these two people who are admitted liars want us to believe. So why would we believe it? Especially at this point of the game. When Darren said that Janie had a boyfriend, but he didn't want to say he meant that because he cuddles up with Janie does not mean that they are going to that they are going steady. He's just making love to her. He's like this story's Candace or Grandis. Yeah, sorry, I had to mute out there for a sec, Miss K. It's snack time. It's snack time here at the house. 80, you were told Janie heard the children outside? Only by Darren. And then that morning, and then she came outside the RV and Malaya was holding Meadow near the trailer. Janie asked where the kids were, and Malaya said, in the woods. Yeah, well, that's what we're arguing, 80 Katie. That's what everybody heard, but that's through Darren Gettison. You can't believe anything that this guy says. Barbara M. says Darren is Malaya's grandmother's cousin, so knowing how close he is to Malaya or how well he knows her. They're all lying, Lacadian? I think you're right. You're right on the money. We'll all be watching, Slim says, traffic cam videos, trail cameras, body cameras, videos of this trial. Absolutely. If there is any, like the point to all of this, Slim, is there might not be any evidence of anything in that circumstance, and the lack of evidence in that circumstance would then rule out these possibilities or make them very, like, I guess, next to impossible in the plausibility of what happened in a scenario in which they're sitting behind closed doors coming up with a best case scenario, worst case in this circumstance. The one thing that, you know, you can bet on is that they're like these people are lying. If they're lying about one thing, why wouldn't they be lying about everything? Oh, they're just lying a little bit here and a little bit there to make themselves look better in this circumstance. No, motherfucker, they're lying about the entire scenario. A few know the truth, Lacadian says, then others, well, are playing along. Yeah, the two people that know the truth are Malaya, for sure, and Daniel. And they'll be surrounding themselves by, you know, whoever believes them in this circumstance. The best thing working for them and the fact that they're trying to get away with this situation, if they are guilty of either trafficking them, which is one of the possibilities, or the second one is the children got into something around the house, even carbon monoxide poisoning, and they, for whatever reason, you would have thought even in a situation like that, they would have called emergency services. Well, they did technically, but they've actively hidden the bodies of two deceased children. That's more probable considering the behavior of Malaya Brooks Murray at this point in time and not seemingly being interested or anything remotely close to a caring human mother. A person with a motherly instinct or a real close bond with their children. And aren't we around that age again, around 4, 6, and 16 months? She's choosing her own a little bit extra time in effort to get away with something ahead of her kids. Her kids, you can take all the kids she's had. She'll have more. Yeah, it is baffling, JJ, isn't it? I don't remember quite ever anything like this before. Like she's going to turn out to be fairly heartless in all of this. And Daniel is really on a PR campaign. Part of you can relate to it if it's a legitimate scenario, but the only thing making it legitimate is our opinions that have been formed off of hearing all of the shit from Darren Getty's mouth. Like, this guy is taking a fairly serious situation, and he is playing the game. He's playing us. He's conning us into thinking a certain way as opposed to thinking rational and dealing with this in an adult way and hoping we believe all of these niceties that he's introducing us to. He can go fuck himself. I don't trust this asshole one bit. Not one bit. He's doing it out of pure selfishness. And he's doing, he's, if we're close to being correct, he would be contributing, what would they call that? He's an accessory to the crime after the fact. Absolutely he is. Plays this game with your emotion in your mind that he has all this important information that he then goes on to detail how much of a percentage he believes in it, then tells you that he's withholding it from the RCMP. Then he tells you he goes through actually verbally telling you, hypnotizing you into embellishing these individuals, which he continuously can't tell you their names. He does this over and over and over and over again. Like, as in, you're doing it on purpose. It's not a correcting of your sentence structure for the sake of privacy like you're hoping in that circumstance. It's intentional. He's a bullshitter. And he talks like a bullshitter. God knows what his real story is. Yeah, but where'd you source that information from, 80 Kitty? You got to tell me. Because the source of that information, the change was Darren claiming all of that. Not some third party, okay? All of the information that we think we know about the case has really been sourced through Darren's mouth.
Because both those stories were connected in the beginning. The story that Malaya did a runner because she was hiding her other children. And now she was with her other children with Meadow. Of course, we know that's all a load of hogwash. But if you are someone that does believe in all these crazy stories, then if you believe that this is Daniel with Meadow, taken somewhat recently, in the last couple of weeks, then that definitely discredits the stories put out by Daniel and by Derwood that people have been so obsessed with. Both the photos I've shown you today act as cautionary tales. Don't simply blindly accept what you are being told by people. Stop and take a closer look. Use a bit of logic. Use a bit of critical thinking. Don't allow yourself to be so easily manipulated by people who have their own personal agenda.
Oh, isn't this one fantastic? Double thumbs up. What a great video. Thank you very much. So I shared that link in my chat. Ninchi True Crime is this channel's name. She's got 5,045 subscribers. Make sure that you go over and follow her. She sounds like a good one in that sense. She appreciates critical thinking skills. Karen Jones, Darren's son met Daniel in the parking lot in New Glasgow on video. He's the co-worker. I did know that. You'd be pleading for her to come home and plead for the people that took the kids to come forward if their story was of substance. Miss K saying, yeah, you would imagine that there would be something towards that direction rather than us them wanting to think a certain way. What do you think really happened that day? What do you think really happened in this circumstance? Why does somebody... It seems like they're all covering up for one another to a degree. Even though it looks, on the surface that they're really engaged in really throwing shade at specific points in time thus far at each other. But really they're providing an alternative narrative to what's on what their initial story was about all of this. What made them call the kids in missing? Like it's a desperate attempt to try to make a bad situation look a different way. The kids just didn't wander off into the woods, therefore what happened to them? What happened to the kids? Considering the dangers of fentanyl, the likelihood of drugs being involved is a high possibility in this circumstance. Considering people keep bringing it up in conversation that is unofficial, but they still keep bringing it up, which would make sense. Well, it's a strong possibility in this circumstance, considering the lifestyles of the individuals. I'm not saying they are, but I don't expect them to be admitting to it at this point in time. They don't seem to be very responsible people, especially when it comes to taking accountability for their children's best interests. Bonnie Randall saying, Karen, I'm with you on the chicken coop. I was reflecting on how Daniel said L&J loved to feed the chickens. That was in the first media interview, and your blood went cold. There's a bit of truth in every lie in that circumstance, Bonnie. Maybe there is something to that. Karen says, imagine selling your kids for Temu credits, and then Daniel stole the money from his Temu account. For Temu credits. Could be a possibility. Oh my God. You're assuming, Layla, CBC is paying Daniel and Janie for these interviews? Do you mean Janie? Did they have an interview? Did she have an interview with the CBC? I haven't heard it. That must be new. Is it out there right now? You're telling me that the public is funding an interview with Daniel? I'd have a problem with that. Why are you paying Daniel in a circumstance like this to have an interview? Don't you think if this was a genuine situation, he would be thankful for the service at hand? Why is it all of a sudden that this guy's deserving of money, especially from a public institution paid for by the taxpayers of Canada like the shithole CBC is? A fucking money pit. A vortex. I mean, they probably did, but I don't know why. I don't know why it would be highly suspect to me. There's no need for it. This is an emergency scenario, and doing these interviews would be in his best interest. Not if you're guilty of anything, though. Layla said he got into a fight with Sunny last night because she said Jeannie won't have any interview. Probably because they're fucking hiding something. I don't trust this Janie, and I don't believe it really happened, and I believe that the people out there, word on the street, gets in a circumstance like this, there's somebody out there in Nova Scotia knows these people, and they're making their way into the comments section, and they'll always be the contrary voice. This is who Karen Jones is. Okay? And in a circumstance like this, it sticks out. You can't continue to come in and around and talk like you're positioning yourself by owning the narrative to your own extent. This is why I love live chats like this. They're questioning what it is that they're saying, and Sunny's questioning what's being said to her, which is, man, high five on that. It's hard to in that circumstance. It's hard to draw a line. especially when you have so much coming at you like that. It's like selling out of the market. I love it. Durwood said Tuesday or Wednesday for Durwood and Janie interview. Probably a lie, though. David saying, yeah, no, I don't believe that at all. It's coming from Durwood. Yeah, bullshit. That won't happen. Durwood wants to make things look like he's in complete control of everything in the background. That's what he's making it out to look like. He's such a fool. What an idiot. What an idiot. Do I think Malaya will take a plea bargain? Absolutely. Absolutely. They're going to have to. It's going to be the best case scenario to avoid trial and take a plea bargain. And you're right. Who brought that up? Marty? Marty brought up it's a question of whether it's going to be manslaughter or second degree. Fuck. They'll probably nail him to the wall. I mean, it's going to be so blatant. When they come forth, I can feel it. You got to think the Crown attorney is on top of all of this nonsense. The Crown prosecutor. But why don't you believe me? I passed the polygraph examination, everybody. Look at this. Isn't that fantastic? Oh, look at me. Karen has the inside knowledge. She's putting the puzzle pieces together. That's a fact. What's not? I agree. Yeah, I'm certain. I know there's something special about Karen Jones. I get it. Karen, you're saying all of them in Lansdowne Station are doing the best that they can, and that should make us stop and think. The best that they could do resulted in the death of 2 children. Well, it's all for show. It's all politicized, and everybody wants to get their 15 in. They've got to say the right things in the right moments to justify the reason of their position. You're saying he looks like a lizard? He's got a little bit of too much confidence in a situation that it's just awkward to show in front of a camera just how confident you are about not being guilty of something that you shouldn't otherwise know anything about. Like, one would think that you'd be so sullen and sober in these situations that nothing else would shake your grievance and the trauma that just occurred. Like, 2 kids that you had in your house are just gone. I don't think I could fucking ever sleep again if that ever happened to me. I'd be so traumatized reliving events that my PTSD would be so off the fucking wall, I would need something to calm me down. And this guy is out smiling, number one. You're in front of a camera smiling and laughing and really making your personality be felt upon a greater audience who are there for answers over where these children have gotten to. That's never, ever, ever going to look good. You can't put lipstick on this pig. Big North Marty says probably completely irrelevant, but with so much discussion, how come Daniel's brother was completely skipped? Did he have an alibi I missed? I don't trust any of them personally. No, I just think that the more that we get to know, like, why are we under falsehoods to begin with? It all comes from Daniel's camp. It all comes from the guilty, the suspects in this situation. That's where it all starts. We're all being misled on a constant basis and monitored by the same people who are propagating it to save their own hides. But you're right. And why isn't there more conversation about his dad that lives out in the back? Karen Jones says he's a smirker. He's not smiling. He's a smirker. Like he's sitting there holding back all kinds of information and just letting you know just enough. Imagine sitting there. That's like saying that they're almost on the verge of breaking this and I can only say so much. Like you're in a position to be able to say anything that you want. Hiding behind protecting the investigation at this point in time tells me that you're probably more of a suspect than you are helping the investigation. But for some reason, you're walking free. Like, I mean, I guess the RCP could be playing stupid for these two suspects. You know, physically murdering two children and passing the polygraph, nobody's saying that they necessarily did that, but through their neglect, these two children could have came across their demise, and right away they would have recognized that they would have been culpable in a situation for not being on top of it before it happened. Kind of like kids falling in a pool type of thing. At some point they're going to find you accountable and want to come back on you, and you are just the type of people to go and cover your own tracks. And if it was drugs, and just how deep in the family does it go? Maybe everybody's addicted. And they're all lying for one another in order to protect the culpability level because of the ever-evolving drug laws that want, especially when it comes to fentanyl, and who they hold accountable when it comes to charging when people die. Like, the more and more time goes by, the more drug dealers that gave the drugs to the people are charged with sometimes second-degree murder. No, Natasha, the bio dad's not in jail. That's Cody. Lacadian LeBlanc, maybe Darren is trying to get close to Daniel, thinking he may lead him to the bodies. How do you know that he's not ahead of the game and already helped them cover up with his excavator and his equipment that he had in the area? Seems to me that he could probably float that stuff in. It's always hooked up on a trailer in the back of his pickup. Just trailer that up there, dig him a little hole, do his business, and fill it in. Call it a pothole. Philip Seymour Hoffman's dealer was prosecuted, Slim. That's true too, isn't it? Do you think Daniel can trust Darren with his life? No, you'll let somebody in that circumstance just enough to be of service to you, of use. So if you're going to be of use and service to somebody who's trying to get away with a crime, you're going to be you're going to let him in and make life look a certain way. Especially, you'll be working him over. You'll be working him. Someone suggested that Janie might have, this is Karen Jones talking, someone might have suggested that Janie might have been a distributor, Malaya a seller, who skimmed a little more than a lot off the top, Karen Jones says. Where are you getting that information from, Karen? I mean, if that's so, you think that they would be living just slightly better, like there would be some money in it, unless they were getting high on their own supply in that circumstance. I mean, it's a possibility, I guess. Miss K, you're questioning the timeline. It's all based off of the family members who lived on site. I thought a neighbor saw the kids. I never heard that. Yeah, you totally think that, Bonnie Randall, that Durwood's helped cover the bodies, and that's he's like a real key in all of this. It would account for why he's all over the place in this narrative. Like, nobody's talking about that. They're just busy focused on the things that he's saying and taking them into consideration without acknowledging the elephant in the room, which is him owning the narrative, as if that he has information that would make him culpable of something in all of this. Like, information that only the suspects would know. Why is that? Because somebody liked you enough to let you into that piece of information, or you already know all of this, and it would account for why you're so hesitant and filtering yourself openly in real time. You're humming and hawing around. You think something happened Thursday night, not Friday, just made April? I'm starting to think the same thing as well. That's what Durwood's horse is in this race. He aided and abetted after the fact, right? And he needs to see this through, not to catch charge in this. Oh, he'll be catching something. There's no way that you got to come out here. The desperate attempts, it's looking like, isn't it? A desperate attempt, not just for attention, but how is this guy has information that Daniel's going around seemingly verifying to the point of he doesn't have a problem with him speaking on his behalf? That is so bizarre. That's bizarre to see this. And he wants us to think it's because they've become such good buddies. The dude's an absolute stranger. You just allowed around to rephrase all of your or talk in grave detail about all your personal family business, especially the worst case scenario and the worst of your family business. Oh, please, Daniel, let me talk about all your business in front of people. He's got to have a hand in it, you would think, to some degree. And Karen Jones is telling me, or told me yesterday, that Durwood O'Grady has done all kinds of earthworks around the property, namely probably the driveway. There's a big pile of loose stone out in the back, leftover that he probably regrades every now and then when you give him $40. Maybe he comes and cleans it in the winter. He blows it out for them. As he throws a leg over Janie in that stinky old RV. That's disgusting. She's some sort of sex maniac like Grandis is back up in there. Hold on, what happened to my chat? There you go. I had to refresh. No one's worried about that employment, right? Layla says, how do they eat? Darren sounds like she is a cleanup man. Darren sounds like the cleanup man. What do you call that guy? What was that guy's name in Pulp Fiction? The Wolf? It's time to call him the Wolf. Damn! You remember that part of the movie? Darren's the wolf in all of this. He's the fixer. The literal fixer. Just made April. I'm thinking Janie paid Darren to show up on panels. That's why he speaks so highly of her. I don't know if she paid him. Maybe she's given him a little bit of incentive, some of the prison wallet, we'll call it. Does Temu sell food? Oh, they'll probably sell all kinds of like synthesized food that probably has been passed by the FDA. Yeah, snacks, all kinds of shit that you don't want to eat. Get candy, JJ. They sell candy. Sky Maiden wants to know. Now you're starting to. I'm reading all Karen Jones' statements. I know what you mean. I'd like to know how this Karen Jones supposedly knows so much. Well, Sky Maiden, I have not been able to get that out of her yet. I ask all the time. I've given up asking. I've just let it flow. So far, she's checked out. It's checked out. So I'm just letting it go like in a Ouija board. Oh, dear. I've paid him something or a little one of those somethings, Lady 25 or Layla, excuse me. A little bit of something in the background. A little bit of sweetness. Why don't you come up here and roll up by my RV there, Darren? I'll put on some Barry White, turn the lights down low. I'll make us a TV dinner, and we can get to work. You could talk to me all about your secret fantasies for 20 minutes. And you can feel like a man again, just like it used to be, Darren. Could you imagine? A lot of people I would think would run away from that scenario. That's like almost like the premise to a Friday the 13th horror movie. And in that place with 2 missing kids, holy shit. You'd be like, I wonder what's in that fucking cupboard. Darren's starting to question his reality. Darren, I can't have you out there talking about any of our business anymore. You've served out your usefulness, and now it's time that you have dessert. Let me get it out of the cupboard for you. And it's like this 20-inch fucking supreme murder knife, like Brian Koberger style. And finally, Darren knows the truth, and she's turned on him. What do you call that? She turned on him. Durwood is looking out for himself, not just doing booty duty. Booty duty. That's not just doing booty duty to Jeannie for free. Well, Daniel gets locked up. Durwood moves into Darren's trailer and has a place to park his equipment too, and she can finally move on up on her own property, get him out of the trailer. Daniel's brother can move into her 30-foot RV with tarpaulin over the top of the roof that leaks like a sieve every time it rains and melts. Man. Yeah, they're creating some space within the home. Daniel's going to prison too. I think that's hilarious. As if Daniel is out there saying that he's going to, he's going to go be up there visiting Malaya while she's in prison. At that point of the investigation, you fool, you're really indicating that you have all of this information, that she's guilty of sin, meaning that you're probably just as guilty in some sort of aspect of all this. You can't just all of a sudden put something on Malaya. It tells me that there's a good chance that they're going to be doing this right till their court dates. And they're going to be fighting about this in court. They'll have their own separate defense lawyers because they'll be fighting over just how culpable each other is in this mess that they both had to cover up. They've lied to us this entire time because essentially we've let them lie to us this entire time. Do you think the RCMP have that same sort of approach to this particular case? They've had it develop. They've let it develop the best way they can and just let it go and not change their approach to the initial call. The truth finally comes to the surface and is coming to the surface. Daniel, he must have been talking about some sort of conjugal visit that they're going to probably negotiate for their conditional admission to whatever the hell went on here. Man, I'm blown away. They've done something, and they're covering it up. I'm certain of it. So are the RCMP, I'm sure. I think Durwood will request to defend himself in court. I don't think they're going to have the patience for that. Holy shit, they're going to have to get on with... It's going to cost them an arm and a leg with all of these lawyers in there and all that time. Oh my God. I think that was just a joke, Catherine McClure. Nobody's actually verifying anybody's taking pay. It was just a bit of a joke. You think that Malay is going to continue to make babies? I don't know how she's going to be able to do that in prison, JJ. Do you expect her to be in a male prison? I could see her getting pregnant for her court date coming up. And where are all of these Malaya apologists? Where are all the Malaya apologists? They must be in other people's chats. Oh, guys, she's just doing this her particular way. I don't know where all of these apologists... They'll be back. Don't worry, they'll be back soon. They have to conjure up their next, justification and excuse for them. In my opinion, there is no excuse. I hold no sympathy for Malaya at this point in time about anything. She has what's coming to her, and she needs to be accountable in front of a goddamn camera. I'll feel a little better. But I'm pissed off that she's lied and then dipped out. Trees, you're saying the RCMP's sitting back and listening and watching. Daniel's talking and he'll slip up. Holy shit. Famous last words. Famous last words for Daniel on the CBC, claiming how that he's not a suspect. Suspect in what? What are you alleging? What are you saying? They never quite get to that. They just talk around this elephant in the room. You're not really speaking to anything. Number one, shouldn't you be in complete denial and surprise over really knowing anything more? Oh, there's so much more to this story, but I'm not allowed to tell you because I don't want to jeopardize the investigation. You mean you don't want to appear any more culpable than you already are in a situation that's far outside your control? What is up with all of this posturing by Daniel so early on? Part of me had, briefly a bit of sympathy for the guy, thinking that he just wants to clear his name around town so he doesn't, get, talked about behind his back. Well, that's going to happen anyway. It's too late for that. Oh, shit. That's a wishful thought. They're all liars and playing games. You're absolutely right, Trees. This is something that's obvious that we got to constantly remind ourselves about every time that we see something, and that's meant to distract us and capture our attentions. Like the information in which this beautiful young gal tonight reminded us about. Sunny defends Malaya because she was in a domestic violence relationship. She needs to stop being biased, Layla says. I don't know. I don't listen to Sunny that much. I'm just going from what my analysis gathers. I don't know that to be true. The only way I don't put myself through the entire live stream though. I just see the points from it, in that she's critical of her as well for obvious reasons. I don't know how or why she would be, meaning Sunny, be putting herself in a position to be defending as an apologist if Darren Getty's information didn't somehow rub off on her some way. At some point she was probably considering Darren's information to be remotely accurate. At this point in time, you could hit her with a fucking Mack truck and I wouldn't care. I don't give a shit about being a domestic violence victim. I don't believe that for a second. I think that's just a blanket excuse in light of the fact that you're covering up the murder of 2 children. And you murdered them out of negligence. Or worse. And since we're there already, my sympathy meter is on empty. I don't give a good goddamn. Tie her with a bunch of dynamite and blow her to kingdom come. That's harsh, isn't it? But, that's just Just me saying my sympathy is very low for her. And if that's true, you've got every opportunity to get out of that situation. Why are you trying to use it as a form of deflection at this point? Sorry, ain't going to work for the judge, and it's certainly not going to work for fucking me. It's because people out there constantly want to consider the opposite or a different perspective just for, if not just a brief moment in time. That's all. Squids is saying, I kind of believe the story I heard about making a plan with a group of her peers to get the kids out and into a tribal land somewhere before CPS took them. That's looking less likely now. Squids, that's looking absolutely... we've broken it apart. The story doesn't make sense because they would have really surfaced by now if that was a scenario, and it would have had a rational ending. And that's really a claim that came particularly from Darren Getty's, a person who's turning out to be... his information is turning out to be incredibly biased and more likely to be PR and distraction from the reality of a situation that he's more culpable in than he's leading on. Remember the Australian woman who said the dingo stole her baby? Yeah, and she went and she was publicly crucified and her baby was stolen by a dingo? Yeah, I remember that. That photograph. I remember that. It was decades ago. It was in the 80s. Nihilism. You don't have a speck of respect for mums who don't protect their kids. Yeah. I can't respect anything, and it is all Malaya's fault. Her actions after this scenario are all her fault. And she's hiding behind these claims, but it makes no sense in how she was just giving up her children so quickly. No, something happened to those particular kids, and she's not wanting to admit it. What is it? Something that she probably wants to blame on Daniel, put blame on Daniel for. If you're to believe that scenario. But why is he so in love with Malaya at this point in time? I don't know. She stayed with Dan the first night. Who's Dan? Amenities. So then Malaya Camp went full blame on Daniel and she left. Yeah, that's seemingly what's happened. But it had to have been festering up until that point, you would think. If you were to listen to Daniel, it's all a surprise. He's just got to, he doesn't understand why any of this is happening to him. He's completely in the dark about anything, and that's his story. I don't know if I believe any of that, to be honest with you. The only thing holding this, bonding all of this nonsense together is the culpability factor that they're all going to be held accountable. Because they are all responsible at some point for the living conditions of the children. They all lived on the same property. So if one thing is true and they come to find out that you've lied about it, then they're going to double check into each and every person that lives on that property and associate some sort of level of culpability into the irresponsible nature that we can all see that the property is in. Sadly. And all of a sudden, everybody wants to play stupid. And there's no way that story can fuck up from their perspective because Malaya's not around to talk. She's not around to argue with Daniel behind closed doors in effort to try to continue to cover things up. They've completely separated, and the only thing that they have is their initial account of things, and they're doing their best. One's not talking at all, and the other one's doing their best to make themselves look completely innocent of any sort of wrongdoing by spinning a new tale about how Malaya has probably done this behind his back and rehomed the kids. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because if they rehomed them to a place that was had any real care about their well-being, that there would be some sort of word and they would have surfaced by now, and they would be able to progress it in a different sort of manner as opposed to a $150,000 reward for any information about their whereabouts. So that claim doesn't hold weight. This Derwood O'Grady Daniel, now that it's coming out that it holds no weight, makes Daniel look even worse at this point in time. Even more culpable of something in wrongdoing, namely the continued cover-up of whatever happened to those children that day or day before they reported them missing. You have nothing out there supporting any of your claims. You behave like a complete imbecile. And you're banking on the fact that just because you passed a fucking test, that means nothing in the first place. That you're somehow off the hook for a situation that you pretend to have all kinds of information about but can't share. Dude, you are the dumbest motherfucker I've ever seen. You've all but admitted to everything that's the reason for the test in the first place. You admitted to being off the wall nervous and afraid like a little bitch. For what? Why would you be nervous and afraid of that in the first place? There's no reason to, just because it's not every day that you're hooked up in this circumstance. Does that even have to be said? No. It's a way of manipulating the audience and the viewers at that point in time. The cops, it's like normalizing it with the cops. If the cops have the wires hooked up to you and they see you sweating and shitting bricks, is there even a point to taking the test? No. No, because you're so far away from your baseline at that point. Your baseline isn't a shaking leaf sweating on the ground, wondering how he's going to get through the next 6 fucking minutes. You should be normal, breathing. Let's get this over with, friend. Come on, man. This guy's such a fool. The Truth Verification Squad isn't going to determine anything based off of that. That's just an initial step of the process. You want to think it's like the be-all and end-all, like this is Maury Povich. What a dumbass. What a stupid dude. Fuck, he's playing himself. It's all in vain. And it's all in vain. It's all just to save his little insignificant self in light of just such a tragedy like 2 children missing. Absolutely no time spent talking about the kids at all. Just the fact that he's not guilty of blatantly, Freddy Kruegering this situation. And by the way, you're still not off the hook with that. That test isn't going to convince anybody except you of anything, asshole. It's given you a little bit of fucking confidence about what? What is it, dude, that you keep avoiding talking about that requires so much of your confidence? It would be the culpability, the elephant in the room, that you think that you're getting away with something and you're really not. There's no getting around that. Enough of this pretending that you know what's going on. And the cops are just lapping it all up and believing you and basing their entire case around the information that you've shared with them. That you want people to believe is some sort of scenario that these children are a better place and they were rehomed. On the surface. The fact that you're admitting that you have all kinds of information tells me that you're going to be catching a charge at some point or another. Off the fucking hook. You're not off anything, son. The three sides to this story, and they probably just only got a little bit of it. At some point, it's all got to come to a head. And they're going to pull these son of a bitches back in there, and then they'll talk to them again when they can trip them up over something. They feel confident enough when they both pull them all into the interview room at the exact same time and start confronting them like some hardcore investigative detective homicide level. They're going to get them all there, and they're going to play good cop, bad cop with them all at the same time, and they're going to be checking each other's story out back and forth, and they're going to have them so fucked up, it's damn near going to write itself. We'll get a little closer to the truth. And then the Crown prosecutor can decide right there and then to sign off on those sheets and put you in cuffs. And then we'll deal with you at trial. Hope you like cheese sandwiches, bitch. I would almost hesitate to say that Daniel, it would be impossible for Daniel not to know what happened to those kids. Impossible. He wants to hide behind the fact that he was in and out of sleep, which we know at this point in time was bullshit. Well, it's fine. All fine and dandy to call something out as not true after the fact, but you've skipped over what the fuck was true. So what's your replacement story? He hasn't provided one. They've provided alternatives, but it only comes through long after the fact through an interpretation from Darren Geddes, which you can't believe. But he'll fill in all of that time that you've invested in trying to get to the answer of that. You got misled, and he spends all his time in telling you how much he believes and how much fantastic of a guy Daniel is. You think that you would get to the point. At one point, Sky Maiden says Daniel stated that he believes the RCMP didn't consider him involved because he was they would only talk to him like every 5 days now instead of every day. Yeah, well, because he's a moron. He's an absolute idiot. That's being described, and he's told to you, if you haven't noticed when you look at it, it's being told to you, like, it's being presented to you as a person who has something to hide and is getting away with something. Well, I think, yeah, Sky Maiden, they only don't talk to him as frequently, therefore they must not find him as suspicious at any point in time. I think he's almost off the hook. It tells you that he's hiding something. He's hiding from something. Why else would you even feel like that? Shouldn't the focus and the entirety of your thoughts be on pure wonder about where those children are at this moment in time? It should be easily talked down through bringing that back up. If it truly was an issue, why would the conversation be completely about Daniel and not about the children? More so, why would you get on the fucking CBC News and do a whole interview about it if you didn't have something to hide? If there wasn't there's no need to be in front of there's no real need to be in front of that camera if you're not somehow involved. If there was no suspicion upon Daniel, there would be no need to go and clear his name. So how does it just magically become that you are... Look, well, talk about just an absolute amateur mistake by way of a desperate individual, in my opinion. He's so eager to be looking like a person who is trying to find these two kids. We've all but shattered that with bullets. There's no possible way. This is all in vain, this effort to make him look like a caring human being about this, when he then turns how non-suspect he is in this circumstance. He talks all about that to great extent with the CBC. Why? Now, I'd say it's quite the opposite. It's just, it looks like they're not wanting to be accountable. And you can only ask Daniel Martel so much. You can only ask him so much because Malaya is not there. And it's not because, I don't believe it's because, for any other reason aside, it adds complications to whatever narrative that they're trying to plant at any one time that helps them get away with it. Because they're not that good of a liar. They're not that good of liars. Now we can believe a variation of the story that they've presented to us, like through Darren Geddes, but the alternative would have to include Darren Geddes as part of the crew that moved the corpse after the fact. Now, there will be a whole nother level of charges for those. That'll be handed out to you too, Darren. Long prison sentences, Darren Geddes. Dude, be homeless. You're not homeless in federal prison. Well, I guess that's one way of looking at it, Amity. Yeah, I don't think that the RCMP think that the kids are alive in that circumstance. They definitely wouldn't be out there all of this time in the wilderness. They wouldn't have lasted 15 hours. If that. Especially clothed like with the lack of clothing that they had in the spring. It's wet and damp out there. They would have died from exposure if that was indeed the case. But they weren't concerned about that. The parents at that circumstance, they were already more concerned with their own alibis, let's say. And that's incredibly suspect. The fact that they've got to keep jumping and producing some sort of answer at all points in time consistently. Now, if you truly didn't have anything to do with this and this was a legitimate situation, which Daniel's already confused our minds about by coming forward, essentially the meat of everything is saying that he lied, she's lying. So now that they admitted to lying, they want to offer you up some further information for you to believe. Get fucked. No, you lied. Therefore, at this point in time, you're both equally as culpable until you guys tell us what exactly happened. So that's up to these two on who wants to come forward first. I don't think that they are. They're not going to be coming forward first unless they have a little bit of help from the homicide detectives. The only reason he doesn't want to come forward with any more information, just enough to try to make it look like he's not culpable, is the fact that he's trying to save his own ass. You're trying to save your own ass. You don't want to look any more guilty than you already look in all of this. And it's going to be one, you're just trying to distance yourself from being like, what you can't have both. How is it on one hand, you look that the kids turn to you for everything because, Malaya was going through mental health challenges, you want us to believe. But the next breath, you don't want to hold any accountability over the fact that they're no longer with us and completely gone. It doesn't sound like you're doing a very good job at that point in time, Mr. Neglect. But it's okay. They put it back on. The blame is to be on to the children in all of this because they're probably not alive anyway. There's no remorse or there's no remorse on anybody's part in all of this. In fact, it's starting to make Janie look even more suspect for being disagreeable and not easy to work with in the beginning. Who knows at this point in time why she doesn't want you in a cupboard? It could be anything. The fact that she wasn't being openly cooperative in the search for a story that everybody on that property has to hold some sort of culpability in all of this. One thing leads to another. The neck bone's connected to the leg bone at some point in time. That was a poor way of expressing myself. I realize I'm just getting carried away. Oh, shit. Seriously, you're saying Malaya's sister's friend, Cousin Haley, said even mentioning the kids is a touchy subject. What the actual what? You know what? I could just imagine because they're causing them even more strife now that they're passed away. Listen, they're finding every other reason to put their excuses off on to accept themselves. They're 100% to blame in all this, and they're looking for every reason not to be held accountable. Don't expect that to change. They have just turned this into clan warfare, Mackenzie's versus Brooks Murray's Smith. They are concerned about family reputations. Guilt is private, shame is public. They're just casting shade. I'm sure, certainly, Karen, I can buy that. It's probably causing divide now, after the fact, especially when there's dead children at the end of it. Listen, it's her fault. No, it's going to be her, and here's why. Well, these are the stories that we're going to need to weigh and consider over time before we come to a determination. Until that point, we're certainly not going to take Daniel Martel's account or Darren Getty's account for things. We'll decide for ourselves. We won't have these idiots be deciding it for us. And that's really what's happening right now, isn't it? All of this unverified information is really out there to help us form a deviated interpretation of what really actually is. Daniel needs to talk. That's right. It's good that somebody's talking for sure. No matter how critical you are at about these people, it's good that somebody's talking. And that does say a lot. It does say a lot. But usually you're a lot more careful about the things that you do say. Well, Amenity, that's what Darren's saying over. I'm probably thinking it's over on It's a Criming Shame, talking about Janie's supposed to be doing a CBC interview. Big deal. Isn't it a little late? A little late in the show for that? I'm not even sure I believe that. You're saying Darren apparently already did one? But it hasn't aired? That's probably information coming from him? Well, I'll believe it when I see it. He doesn't have a very good track record thus far. He's been proven to be a bullshit liar. So this sounds like another lie in of itself. The boy who cried wolf. Homicidal neglect, bad enough, plus hidden the bodies. Well, there's a whole repertoire of charges about moving a corpse. And then they'll, not just that, but wait until they really want to drive them home and figure out after an autopsy what happened to the poor children. And they'll add some more. They'll be piling on these charges. Trust me. Because it's in what they did after that really adds a real factor to it that's dark. And all just to continue the sin. Like they are really, really trying to save their own skin. You don't see a whole lot of sadness in that sense. Just a whole lot of question and blame shifting onto the victims. And that's really suspect and out of sorts. But it's human nature to want to find and point blame onto the other person. That you can believe. And this, them fighting back and forth over really who's responsible in front of the world who think it's something else other than it is probably more common than you think. All right, baby. All right, friends, I'm going to shut it down tonight. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you guys. We'll continue this conversation back in the morning. Keep your eye out for around 9 or 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. My friends, thank you very much. It's snack time, then bedtime over here, friends. Peace. night, y'all.